you think about style, you might be thinking about personal writing style. Editorial style is very different from this. We use editorial style guides to make our writing consistent. So even though you may not think that you've used a style guide in the past, you probably have. The ones that you are most likely familiar with are MLA and APA. So these are the style guides that you will most often use for citations in university. The communication program primarily uses APA, but other programs might primarily use MLA. You might also have run across the CP guide, the CP style guide. That is often used for public relations communication in particular. Now, style guides are not just for citation. They include rules and guidelines for works in whatever the respective field is, for language and grammar use, and font use and size of headings, and about a bajillion other things. A lot of what style guides include depends upon who primarily uses those style guides. And we'll talk about that in a moment. But generally speaking, style guides include everything that writers might need to know to make their work look and read like every other work written in that style. So the look of the page, the way other authors are referenced in the body of the work, and the tone of the writing. Now, when I say everything, this is a little subjective. Even the Chicago Manual of Style, which runs 1,000 pages in hardcover, or thousands of paragraph links in the online version, can't cover every single little thing. And sometimes there are situations where an editor will have to make decisions based upon the needs of the organization or the needs of the writer. So in general, and this is the important bit, style guides are used as a way of making common elements consistent across documents written by many writers in many places and in many circumstances. So readers can read a paper written in, for example, APA style and know immediately how to navigate the headings of the paper. It's consistent throughout the document, and if you are reading a lot of papers that are in APA style, it's consistent among those papers. So you know how to navigate the headings, you know how to navigate the citations, you know what kinds of details are listed in the abstract, you know how quotes are introduced and how they're marked. So these are important. They may not seem important to someone who doesn't use style guides, but they are important for us editors to understand so that we can make documents consistent, so we can make them readable for their particular audience. All of these things are important. So I'm going to talk to you a little bit about a couple of common style guides. Chicago Manual of Style has been around for a long time. It began with the University of Chicago Press in 1891 when that press opened its doors. So here's the thing about style guides. People don't just generally start a style guide for no reason. There's a need. So in this case, that need grew out of the need of a publication house, the University of Chicago Press. They wanted to make their documents consistent. And so they came up with a style guide. So at the time, the press had its own composing room with typesetters who were required to set complex scientific material. And I'm really just paraphrasing this from the Chicago Manual of Style website. But I thought this was very interesting. And it's important that we kind of understand how style guides emerge so we can understand what they're all about and how we should be using them. So anyway, at the University of Chicago Press, professors brought their handwritten manuscripts directly to the compositors, who did their best to decipher them. The compositors then passed the proofs to the, quote, brainery, the proofreaders who corrected typographical errors and edited for stylistic inconsistencies. So out of this, the Chicago Manual of Style was born. To bring a common set of rules to the process, the staff of the composing room drew up a style sheet, which was then passed on to the rest of the university community. The University Press style book and style sheet grew into a pamphlet, and by 1906, the pamphlet had become a book, the Manual of Style, being a compilation of the typographical rules in force at the University of Chicago Press, to which are appended specimens of type in use. So this original document was less than 200 pages long, and it sold for approximately 50 cents. As you can see, the Chicago Manual of Style has grown since then. And as I said, the hardcover book is basically a doorstop. Nice though. I like the hardcover edition because I can make notes on it, and I can, if I've been using it a lot, I haven't used it a lot for many years, but when I was using it a lot, I'd have stickies and I'd have place notes, and it was very easy for me to navigate geographically after a while. I use that word geographically sometimes when I'm talking about the difference between working in hard copy and working digitally, because I find that it describes the nuance of the differences. Digital, it can be very convenient. It can be very easy to work with in some situations, but in other situations, I find it can be quite problematic. So if I have to go back and forth and find information all the time, it can be useful to have those geographical landmarks. And for me, those consist of things like little tabs and notes in the margins and things like that that really help me to navigate through information if I'm using it a lot. Obviously, a lot of people prefer having the digital version or both for obvious reasons. So just to give you a sense of what's in the Chicago Manual of Style, new kind of additions to this 17th edition, which I actually need to get. The most recent one I have is the 16th edition, so I'm going to have to pick that up. The 17th edition includes things like updates to formats for lists and outlines, tabs, runovers, and bullets, updates to formats for abstracts and keywords, updates to proofreading tools for PDF, overview, and tips, updates to detailed checklists for books produced in e-publication format, additions to how to cite for permalinks, how to use short forms for URLs, how to preserve a permanent record of potentially ephemeral sources, updates to citing an online-only supplement to a book, as well as citing locations in electronic formats without fixed pages. So a lot of the updates to the latest style guide, the latest edition, obviously have to do with digital content because this is where a lot of changes are taking place. However, there are other updates that have nothing to do with digital content. So for example, a comma no longer follows etc. period at the end of a list unless required by the surrounding syntax. Also, a direct quotation introduced mid-sentence always begins with a capital letter. So these are kind of interesting things. And this is exclusive to Chicago Manual of Style. So some of these rules might vary from style guide to style guide, but these are some of the recent decisions that the Chicago Manual of Style have made for various reasons. So the Chicago Manual of Style itself is used primarily in book publishing. So if you get into book publishing of any sort, you'll know that it's probably the most widely used style guide within that discipline. So it's used by authors, editors, proofreaders, indexers, copywriters, designers, and publishers. And so if you are working on editing, say for example, you decide to freelance and you have a client who is looking to get published, it's likely that you would be using the Chicago Manual of Style as your guide. If you were working for a publishing house, it's likely that you would be using the Chicago Manual of Style as a guide.